Now let's say we want to do our final render. This is the image that we want. You know, let's hold down control and let's move our sun and sky around a little bit so that we don't get those shadows kind of falling in an awkward way there. There we go, that'll work. Another thing we can do is go over to lighting, and we have it on a weird kind of custom lighting here, so we can turn on and off what we want to do. We can also go through here and choose like, okay, here's the basic, here's the product, here's jewelry, which turns on caustics, and that's an interesting one. So the caustics is actually causing these reflections. Looks like the reflections on the shiny plastic is actually being cast down onto the ground, which is kind of interesting too. So if we like that, and I'm going to actually leave that on just because, you know, this renderer is so fast with this Threadripper using all these cores that it's kind of hard to tell how long it takes something to render, and adding caustics and translucency is a way to kind of cause that renderer to kind of spend a few more cycles to kind of res in, because it's already finished basically now, you know. In our next demo, we're going to get into translucent materials and glass and liquids and stuff like that, so the render is going to take quite a while. But plastics and stuff are pretty self-contained. They render pretty quickly. So we'll go ahead and leave caustics on. It makes for a nice image. We're on interior mode now. If we change that to product mode, it looks like that gets rid of those cast reflections, I guess you could say. Now, if this image is taking a long time, what you can do is go over here to image and select region, and then you can just choose like, you know what, I just want to see this little bit down here, and now it's only going to render that tiny region, and it'll res in faster so you can make better choices without having to watch the whole thing kind of res in all at once. When you're done with that, you can go ahead and turn that back off. There's also under image, you can go to effects, and this can kind of be, I think, post-process stuff. So you can turn on vignetting here. Looks like our vignette color is fine, but you can change the vignette strength so it kind of darkens the edges a little bit if you want. You can change bloom and bloom intensity if you'd like, but I'll go ahead and leave that off for now. And again, if we go back to our camera, we can turn on back on that depth of field. We talked about this. So we got more of an extreme angle here. We can go, okay, depth of field. We'll select our focal point. We'll say is right here on this R, and then done, and then we can change our f-stop here to kind of start blurring out the farther we get from this resolution point here. Now, as we're waiting for this to res in, we can go up here to view, or I'm sorry, it is view, heads up display, which is also H. And as we're watching this res in, you're going to see we have the time going up. So 17, 18, 19, 20 seconds as you're waiting for this to res in. One way this can be interesting to use is the quality of your final image. So where we're going to find that is under renderer, and we're going to go to the render, which is Control P. And if you go here, you're going to see we're going to render out a still image. If we want to render out a still image with the background and the ground plane and all that good stuff all together, JPEG is fine. Here's the resolution, which is 800 by 533. It says it's a, what does it say? Aspect is defined by the resolution in the image tab of the project window. Anyway, we're rendering to a still image here. We're not rendering to a region. And there's options within here. So within the still image here, you're going to see you can go to options here and you can choose the default, which is using all 32 threads of the Threadripper 1950X. And if you want, we have maximum samples checked on. If you do maximum time, you can type in how many minutes or seconds you want it to spin. So if you go over here to your heads up display here, you're going to see while we've been sitting here, it's been on for about 2 minutes. So if this is the quality of image that you want, then you could just do your final renders as, you know, sitting here for 2 minutes and then change that to maximum time. You can also go over here to custom control and have a whole lot of control over what kind of rendering you want to do. Or just go back to maximum samples. If we go back here to output, you're going to see we have more options in here. So underneath layers and passes, you can choose render all layers, and it looks like we have a little settings tabs here. So you can have your layers matted with black, unmatted, or opaque fringe, which is kind of interesting. That's new to me. You can do all render passes. That'll turn everything on, or you can go through here and say, I want, you know, a diffuse pass, a reflection pass, or a clown pass. And basically a clown pass is your separate objects are going to be assigned a flat color so that you can make masks easier within Photoshop. However, if you want to do render all passes, you're probably not going to want to render to a JPEG. You're going to want to render to like a PSD. And then when you do this, you're going to see you have an add to PSD option here. Just go ahead and check that on. And now you can go ahead and render this. If you want, you can also include alpha transparency. So if you have let's say a PNG file, you can include alpha transparency, and that'll give you a transparent alpha around this, around your object here. We can also just do, let's say PSD, include alpha transparency, do a preset here if you want to render, you know, 1600 by 1067, let's say, that's fine. And then once you're done, you can go ahead and hit render. Now, before you do this, if you look down here at the very bottom right-hand corner, if you just hit that screenshot button, that'll go ahead and save. It says save screenshot to see users public documents key trust and rendering. So if I go to that really quickly here, there we go, renderings. And if I'm in here a lot, I'm just going to take this renderings and just drop this into my often use here. So here's my renderings. If I double click this, here's the JPEG that it saved out of just what was sitting in my image view right here. So that's cool. That's one option for you just to quickly get a rendered image out. However, you can also go in here to your render. So you go here, render, render, and now we're in still image, output. All these things are checked on. You can add it to your queue, but we're just going to go ahead and render this. We'll go ahead and hit render. And while that's rendering, we're going to go ahead and do it Control-Shift-Escape. It's going too fast. Performance, and then we're going to look at the CPU while it's rendering, and you can see it's rendering really fast. And again, it's got, you know, the 16 cores, 32 threads, so, and it's a 3.4 gigahertz base. I can overclock this to 4.0. I haven't messed with any overclock hardware stuff yet. I'm not a super hardware guy. I'm learning as I go. So as we continue on, I might do some more crazy hardware stuff. But in the meantime, you're going to see this is almost done, and boom. There we go. We got the little ding that says we're done. We don't need that anymore. And then we're good. So we'll go ahead and click this little checkbox here. We can go ahead and close this. And I'm going to go back to my window. Here's our renders, and here's all of the things that were exported with that one render. So we got the PSD file here. We have the EXRs, which are our AOs and caustics and depth passes and all this stuff. Where the different render passes. Here's our clown pass that I was talking about. So each individual, looks like individual material gets a clown pass. So this makes it a lot easier in Photoshop to just make a nice selection based on those colors. And then if we double click this, now we've got this PSD. Again, we had transparency turned on, so here's our RGBA, and now we would just import all those other files into this PSD, and we're off and running. And if I double click this here, this is the full resolution here, so it looks like this is full res, 1600. Let's see how big this is. 1600 by 1067. Looks beautiful. Awesome job. I'm going to go ahead and close out of Photoshop here. And there you have it.